Hi, this is Janie. I wanted to show you how I made this glittery butterfly card. It is so pretty. I wish you could see it in person and see how the glittered embossing powder makes it just shine. I'm using Stampendous embossing powder in gold tinsel and blue tinsel. And just a tip, for years I kept these in a storage bin and I would have to pick them up to look and see what color it was, and finally it dawned on me I should put a label on the top and emboss a little image on the top of all of them so I could look at them from while they were inside the box and know exactly what color I needed. So that's just a handy tip. And I also will be using a piece of Mariposa paper from the matte stack. This is Die Cuts with a View Mariposa matte stack, and I'm using it for a card. I started with a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock and scored it in half, and I put liners in it because I'm using black cardstock. I actually always use liners in my card because it makes it sturdier and gives it a more finished look. I edged this with Distress ink, the peacock feathers, and it's one of the spring seasonal Distress inks. And I'll be using a piece of turquoise basil paper that I trimmed to 5 by 8. And then, because the matte stack is an odd size for a card like this, I thought, well, I needed something to put in the other spaces. So I'm going to use, I had a gold doily that was heart-shaped, and I cut it in half and used half of it on this card, and I'll use the other half on the one I'm going to show you. But I turned it so you just see the very edge, like that. And so you're just seeing the edge and it looks round. I'm also going to be using a die cut that I created for my digital cutting machine that's called Diamond Edge, that I'll put on this side. And I created this die cut for this butterfly that's my detailed butterfly, and I'll show you how I did that. So right now, the next step after I created the card base was to emboss this sheet. And because when I was sitting there, it just needed something else. So I put gold embossing powder on the edges of this. And I did that with a Stampin' Up! Baroque flourish die, and it's an old one. I'm sorry, stamp. It's a really old one that I don't have a lot of stamps, but I love this one. I'm just going to be stamping the edges of this. And I'm stamping with the, inking it with the stamp upside down. I'm just getting the edges. And I'll get one more edge right in here. And then I'll go ahead and put some embossing powder on there so you can see that better. And I should have put my embossing buddy, that magic pad on there before I did this, and I forgot. So I'm going to take a paintbrush and knock some of it off and then just wipe away all the extra. Then I'm going to heat emboss this, and I'll come back right after I do that. Okay, I heat embossed it with my heat gun, and you can tell a difference when this glitter embossing powder starts to melt. It does change color, but it stays a little bit gritty. It has some texture to it like glitter would, so it's not one that you would want to stamp on something and then run ink or your stains over, because it will tear up the felt pads, because it feels a little like glitter. I'm going to do this other side the same way. I'm not a very good stamper, but I do know some techniques. So one of them is to put your stamp upside down and stamp this way, so that you can control how much ink gets on the paper, or I'm sorry, on the stamp. And I'm going to put another one on this corner. And then I'll put embossing powder over that. And you know what? I forgot to get the little pouch of talcum powder again. But it's okay. Once you stack everything on there, you don't really notice the stray pieces of embossing powder that got on there. And I'm just going to go in with a dry paintbrush and brush some of those off on the edges where you'll notice it. And I'll heat emboss this, and you can tell that this is a little darker than this, so when it starts to melt, it'll turn a little brighter. And I'll be right back. Okay, I embossed that side, and it does not look so pretty. I can see using this for a lot of different things. It just adds a really elegant touch, and it's a little blingy. So next I'm going to take, I embossed that and attached it to the card. I'm going to take this pattern paper, and I'm going to glue this die cut lacy strip on this side and attach the doily on this side. And okay, it's a good thing I like this glitter embossing powder, because I'm going to be dealing with the glitter from it for a while. It looks like it sticks to everything. I'm just going to put some glue on this and make sure I get a little bit on the points. And this is just Scotch glue. And I'm going to put it on this end. And I decided to go with something on this end because it needed something to just give it a little bit of weight. It looked like it was kind of floating around there. And then I'm going to put glue on the heart-shaped doily thing. And it's just a matter of getting the right angle so that it looks like it's round. And so I'm just going to angle it like this as much as I can. That's good. And then I'll attach that to the card like this. I forgot to mention one thing. I did round these corners a little bit with my corner chomper, the 1/4 inch side. I just rounded these corners just to make it a little softer where that curves. And ideally you would do that before you put the doily on, but I forgot. And then I'm just going to center it on this card. And I've changed my mind. And I inked the edges of this with black soot, and I forgot to do that before I put everything on. So I'm going to try to do it right now. See if I can get away with it. Just because the white core from the paper was showing a little. And I'm just going to bend that back. And I didn't get that corner very well, so I will do it again. There, and now I will center it on the card, make sure I've got it going the right way. That way a little bit of the embossing shows on this side and a little shows on that side. There you go. Now, I didn't want to cover up this paper too much, but it needed a little something extra, so I embossed this butterfly and made it look 3D. And I did that. I have this butterfly that I die cut. I made the cut file for it and die cut it on my black cat cutter and cut it out. I cut it out of white cardstock, and it is 110 pound weight. I just find that that works best for what I like to do with it. And because this embossing powder may show through or be, I may not get completely even coverage with it, I'm going to go ahead and ink the butterfly with peacock feathers. And distress inks act as an embossing ink also, so I'm just going to ink it and then use that as my ink for the embossing powder. And I don't have to be particularly pretty about it because it's not really going to show. So I'm just going to put it on there. Here's a tip when you're working with something detailed like this. I start in the center and work out. Everything else I know we start in the outside and work in. But when it's delicate like this, if you start in the center and work out, there's usually less tearing. And I'm just going to quickly do the other side, just mainly so those edges don't show. Hit that one more time. Okay. And I'm going to put the embossing powder on that. And this is the blue tinsel. And I'll grab that with tweezers. And I like to grab it in the center because my butterfly body will cover that up later. And with metal tweezers, the embossing powder will not stick right there where the metal was, but the body will cover that up anyway. So I'm going to emboss this, and I don't think you want to hear my machine do that, so I'll come right back and check back with you. Okay, I embossed this, and you can kind of see where it's thin in some areas, and you see the paper. While it's still hot, if I've worked quickly enough, I'm going to go back over this with embossing powder and heat it again, just so you get a thicker layer of it. And I keep missing this one little area. And here's another tip: when I'm embossing, I like to hold the object up in the air so that the hot air can get around it better, and I think it works better that way. Okay, I embossed the butterfly just on the one side, and while it was hot, I was able to dip it back in the embossing powder and heat it again so that I got about 3 layers on there. And I did the same thing with the body. And I'm just going to put some glue on these 2 sections that I know the body is going to go on to. And put the body down like that. And I bend the wings a little. I take a marker, and they won't bend a lot because you have the embossing powder on there, but they will bend some. And ideally, I probably should have let the body of it dry first. But I just curl it like that. And I'll have to put more glue on there. And then I'm going to get a little more aggressive glue and put it just down the line of the body. And then I'll glue it to the front of the card when I find where I put it. And then I'll glue it to the front of the card about here, I think. And just press it down in the center there. I got a little bit too much glue, but it wipes up, and once it dries you won't really notice it. Then once that's dry, once I know the body is dry on there, I'll take the wings and lift them up like this. And if you're going to mail it, it will go flat to mail, and the wings will look flat once it arrives. But if you're going to hand deliver it or put it in a box, you can have the wings up, and they look pretty. And then I like to finish off the back of my cards. I put a stamp that says Original Handmade Card by Janie, and has my Paper Compulsions blog spot. And then I went ahead and embossed a little butterfly to put on there. And then I tried to just emboss a butterfly on the inside paper, and I messed it up. And so I embossed it on white paper and put a little black paper there to look like a mat. So no one will ever know once they get it. So go try the glitter embossing powder and have fun with it. And I would love to see what you make. You could send me pictures or email me. Put them on my blog. I have a spot on my blog to post things that you make with my cut files. So thank you for watching. Bye.